I'm somebody who is actively taking the path that's less traveled, and I have been since I was really young. It's been that way for a long time, and I wanted to talk about the space of Islamic spirituality and what that means in a practical day-to-day life. My background is I'm a therapist, and I have that training as a counselor, but in my personal life and experiences, I've explored the space of mental health and life and well-being and purpose, and observed and reflected upon it since as young as I can remember. And these are some of the learnings that I have and the path that I'm on, and it's the path of tawfiq. And for those of you who don't know what that means, the way the definition of tawfiq sits with me is the alignment that you have with the divine, Allah, and how that manifests through you in this life, and how you're guided through the divine in this life, and that in itself is also connected to the aspect of fitra, your innate self, who the divine, God, whatever language you want to use, made you to be inside. It's something that cannot be shifted. It's already inside you, and you can call that the soul, you can call that the ruh, you can call that the spirit, whatever sits well with you, and it's going to be different for everybody. What I mainly want to get across is that I feel like part of my purpose is to connect the bridges and share from my own personal experience of what tawfiq's been like for me and my journey of Islamic spirituality, and how I practice the tradition based on my knowledge in the space professionally, as a therapist of human psychology, and just integrating that with just who our innate self is and who we're meant to be. And I think the best way to do that is just share my own personal life and my personal experiences. And so for as long as I've known, I've taken the unconventional routes and the unconventional paths, and I was born into a Muslim household, and I was living in Pakistan for the first 8 years of my life. I was born there. And obviously, we're all born into different families, into different lifestyles, into different belief systems, right? And for me, that looked a certain way. And as I grew older and we moved to Australia, things started to unravel pretty quickly and confuse, an 8-year-old pretty quickly, because you're getting introduced to different concepts. And I truly believe everything happens for a reason, and there's a learning in everything that guides you back to the remembrance of the divine, of God. And what that means for me now in the day-to-day is giving yourself up in service of what you think is good and kind, and what you think is loving, what you think is just. The state of the world as we see it right now is so deeply wrapped up in delusion, corruption, greed, and all of the obviously bad things, right? They're bad in a objective and universal lens. The things that are happening right now are objectively really fucked up. And there's learnings in all of that, and from what I've been observing on my journey is that we're being called to us as humans, we're being called to really look inward, to hold accountability for the roles we play in this life when it comes to causing harm and hurt. And that adds to the corruption of what's happening in this life. And that could be, different for everybody. I've observed it in the decisions I make where I'm investing my money, or the decisions I make in the people I keep around me, and the decisions I make on how professionally and what in the space of career and job and that layer of purpose, what am I contributing to right now? Am I contributing to a system that's just, fair, equal, adding towards good in the world, or is it adding towards holding and upholding values that are just innately misguided? And just tying that back into Tawfiq and the element of spirituality, they're all intertwined in the sense that when you get to know your innate self, and from the humanistic perspective, Carl Rogers held the deep belief that we are all innately good as humans, and that we all are innately made to want to do good in the world. And that is what I also equate in the Islamic space as the fitrah, your innate self, the goodness, the compass that God, divine, has placed into your ruh, into your soul, into your qalb. It's very layered. And this is important to talk about, especially for my community of Muslims, where the integration is not happening here, where we're not looking inwards at, hey, are we even doing the work that needs to be done? Are we even good humans? And this may sound controversial, but it's not. I'm going to just say it as it is. In every form of community, there's a lack of self-accountability, but I'm speaking to mine. And if we do not do the work to bridge the spiritual tradition, the spirituality, the lived remembrance of what Allah, God, the divine wants for us, and how God and the divine wants us to service the world, if we're not doing the bridging, if we're actually just doing the performative layers of remembrance and connection to the divine, then you're also part of the problem. And I say this not from a place of better than thou, but a place of we are all made to be imperfect, right? And the concept of jihad al-nafs, conquering our nafs, conquering our attachments to the dunya, it goes so deep, right? And there's symmetry in Buddhism in this space where there's a, learning to be detached and coming and working on, in whatever way suitable to you, working on the elevation and release of attachments of this life, the desires, the egoic layers, to then actually let the light in, to actually experience the divine and God for what is intended. And so that journey looks like self-accountability, but also holding those around you accountable for injustice and against injustice, because we all live in this world. We all live in this earth, on this earth, and you can be a force of good, a force of justice, a force of love, a force of light, a manifest of the names of the divine. Or you could be a hermit, in the sense of you just focus on the self, and you just focus on cocooning yourself in the comforts that allow you to be okay, kind of inside, comfortable enough, but you're not made to face accountability for the hurt you cause other people in just focusing on that self. Not to say that part of the journey is not to just go inwards and about the self. I think it is a very layered space, and it'll look different for everyone's journey, but I do truly believe it is our responsibility to tap into this space. If we don't tap inwards, we won't be able to give back. It's whatever you feed internally is what you can give back externally. And if you're just feeding selfish desires, if you're feeding, corruption in ways where you're attached to money, or you're attached to power, if you're attached to vanity, if you're attached to pride, so many layers exist in this space. But if the reflection point is, what are you feeding? Like, are you feeding your ego and nafs with things that make yourself a good force in the world? Or are you feeding your desires that we were never meant to be attached to begin with, right? I don't want to get this wrong, but there's this essence hadith which speaks to or maybe it's in the Quran. I don't want to get this wrong, but I read it recently, and I trust what I got out of it, and it was along the lines of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ being a manifest of the Quran, meaning that his character exemplified what is written in the Kitab. And that really spoke to me, because on my journey of the things that I I'm excited. Let me take a deep breath. Okay. On this journey of life, for me, the things that I anchor myself to for grounding, right, is prayer, anchored 5 times throughout the day, reading scripture, the Quran, Sunnah, but also learning from other cultures, other belief systems, because everything is a mirror. Everything is a mirror to us understanding what we're meant to do here on earth, what we're meant to do, our purpose, but how we're meant to give back and be of service as well. And that kind of understanding that we should be striving towards the same character of goodness, right? Essentially, it's a character of goodness, of justice, of compassion, of this balance that that facilitates good in the world. And we've been given guidance in many forms in the history of the existence of life to help us out with that, to help us understand, okay, how are we going to reach this yin and yang balance? How are we going to find the middle path? How are we going to stay on the straight path? How are we going to, I think there's in Buddhism, I think there's the Eightfold Path, and I don't know everything about all belief systems, but the overall consensus is that it's trying to lead you towards goodness and love and compassion and being of service, and also leaning in and learning that it's in here too. And I'm deeply passionate about this, and for me, I want to share, whether it's in the form of this video, whether it's in the form of writing a song and playing it on my ukulele, or traveling off of whims, to show you that it's possible to break the things that hold you back, the fear, the attachments. You know, I truly believe that part of my purpose is to show other people that it's possible to break out of your fears, out of your attachments, out of your desires, and especially, you know, for the community of Muslims that also exists. I think it's important for my community to really understand that, but it's not, and I truly believe this with my qalb, and it can be controversial and that's okay, but it's not like things are happening on many layered levels that we as humans will never understand. We will only be able to get to the knowledge and wisdom that is provided to us and that we're given. But what's happening in the world right now is on a very humanity level, like a very human level, and the teachings are applicable to everybody, because everybody is here, has been created, is here. And that's, I guess, the ultimate point of unity, is that we can all agree that we're here, and we can all agree that we're experiencing something, and we're right here. And I will speak on this more, and I will share my stories and make my songs and have my moments of travel and hold space for people who want to also go on that journey and understand their own purpose. And I'm here to do that because what else is there to do? What else is there to do than do good, be good, and give good? I'm gonna end it there.